Hello.
Hey, hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you very much. How are you?
Very good, very good.
Here it comes. Yet another Beam Twitter space.
Indeed, indeed. A big in crypto the last
Oh,
week.
yeah, my God. So many things happened. And we're
There
going to
was,
talk about some of them.
yeah, there was a couple of weeks there where there was some moment of peacefulness, not too many bad things happening, not too many craziness, not too much craziness about, but back into it.
Yes, this week kind of fixed it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was probably a calm little moment before the storm.
yeah,
Um, so one thing that I just wanted to kind of mention before like everybody joins in about the Twitter Spaces itself, right? There is like some mystery about how many people are actually joining live during the show. The amount of people that I see on my screen is different from what the statistics from self say, and it's very
yeah.
strange.
I like this. We've discussed this a bit, and every time we do, everyone has different people showing that are listening, and different like statistics on how many people there are. And I've joined from like my personal account on my desktop, and it's shown me completely different stuff to what I see on my mobile. It's strange.
Yeah, it seems like two different teams are working on mobile and desktop features, and they're not kind of in sync.
Yeah.
I used to say that Elon would fix that, but he kind of, I think, backed up now.
Yeah, what happened there? He bailed on the deal or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think there was some kind of dispute about whether Twitter presents correct statistics of how many real people they have, like versus bot accounts, and he claimed that he was presented incorrect information, something like that. Yeah, but I don't know. Like I didn't dig into exactly, but it doesn't seem like uh, the purchase is happening for now.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so this week we have an official topic that we have announced, which is going to be like physical NFTs, so like NFTs in real life. But before we get to that, there were some events that we just cannot, omit or not talk about that happened last week. Two hacks that we will discuss. The first one is the Nomad Bridge. You heard about that one?
Yeah,
So what was interesting about that hack? There were two things that were interesting. Like we know that bridges get hacked a lot. It's a very well-known kind of weak spot, very scary. But this specific hack was different. First of all, because the hack itself was kind of described in the audit report, and
mm,
whoever was reading it like thoroughly, this issue that was eventually exploited was mentioned, but it was not uh, emphasized and it was not kind of considered a critical vulnerability at that moment.
yeah. I think they even labeled it as like low risk, kind of in
Yeah,
the audit report.
yeah, because like yeah, it's not always like immediately obvious what you can do with it and how you can exploit it, but somebody did find the way to exploit it, obviously. And the second point that made it this hack kind of interesting is that people piled on. So they recognized the transaction that was draining the bridge,
Yeah,
and they started copy pasting it, replacing the address, so with their own wallet. And I understand you watched this in real time, right?
yeah. It was crazy. I watched it unfolding in real time, and and it was chaos. Like I was in a few groups and they were talking about it and talking about like what was happening and talking about how easy it was for like anyone to replicate. And as it's turned out, it was a matter of like going to the like initial attacker's transaction and copying the data and for the call data for the transaction, input and firing it off, and obviously making out with some coins that are probably not meant to go to your wallet. But it was really, really fascinating, like watching a decentralized like bank robbery.
Yeah, it reminds me like all of these scenes in movies when like in the casino, suddenly the lights go out and everybody starts grabbing things, chips, money, whatever they can put their hands on.
Yeah,
That was something like that, but in crypto.
yeah, and there was like people, there was like accounts that obviously had ENS addresses, and one was like, there was one that had previously like hacked another protocol in some way. I think it was a flash loan attack. Can't remember the exact protocol. There was the three watermelon emoji guy that made off with some quite quite chaotic.
Hmm. I wonder what's the process like with these people later, especially if you know exactly who it was.
Yeah, well, there was like a bunch of people that kind of like quickly backtracked. And I mean, I preface this with like I didn't do anything. I was watching it, but didn't like attempt to do it. Even if I tried, I wouldn't have any idea, even though it was very simple. Uh, but I did see many people tweeting out like quickly backstepping and saying like, "Please, here I took it to safekeep it for you. You can have it back now, and don't send the
Oh,
FBI to my
oh,
house and this kind of
nice,
stuff."
nice thieves. I stole it, so it from you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the Nomad Bridge guys even offered a bounty, 10% or something like this for anyone that returned funds.
It was a crazy amount of money. It was like $150 million. It was like um, unbelievable.
A huge amount. And this is like a trend that we're seeing is like bridges getting hacked and also the amount that they're getting hacked for being huge, huge amounts of.
Yeah, because it's basically like a repository of all tokens that were transferred like from one chain to another, all sitting in one centralized location. Yeah, it's very scary.
Yeah.
So the second hack was also very interesting, and it was on Solana. And the first kind of news that started appearing is that Solana is hacked, and the people just started noticing that money disappears from their wallets. It was like
Yep.
not from a protocol or like a bridge or some, smart contract with some TVL, but it was just you had your money in the wallet, your coins, like Solana coins, and suddenly they're gone. And it
Yep.
was a lot of confusion. It took relatively long time, in my opinion, to figure out what happened. And luckily, the total amount stolen was not like so it was large, right? It was like $5 or $6 million, but it was not like extreme. One interesting thing that happened during this process is that people started DDoSing Solana nodes, like RPC nodes, to slow down the hacker, so he will have harder time making transactions and transferring the coins from the wallets.
Yeah, I didn't like read up and confirm this, but I saw talk about like the Solana validator guys, I guess that or guys and girls or whatever, uh, like blacklisting the hacker's address. Did you hear anything about this?
Uh, no, no, but I didn't like maybe we missed it. But yeah, like it seems like plausible if they had an idea where this was coming from, they would try to kind of prevent that.
Yeah,
But the aftermath, like when they kind of figured out what the issue was, this is something that is even more interesting in my opinion. So first of all, turned out the problem was not in the Solana blockchain, but rather in one of the wallets that is widely used to access Solana. And that one was called, what was the name?
the slope or the
Slope.
other one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So there are kind of two key wallets that are mainly used, Phantom and Slope. And here is what happened. And this is very important story, in my opinion, that everybody should know and everybody should kind of think about because of several reasons. So first of all, it was not actually a hack. It was just the fact that this Slope wallet accidentally sent the secret key of the user to a centralized monitoring server as that was used as part of this kind of widely used package, just a library that a lot of software uses. And basically, what it does, it reports things like, keep alive, that everything is okay, send statistics and stuff like that. And as part of those statistics, it sent the entire kind of information, including the secret key.
Yeah.
Now, this is first of all, it's something that does not only happen in crypto. There were, and like fairly recently, and also in the past, a lot of kind of attempts to trade malicious code into libraries that are then used in certain products. And when they're used, basically they leak information. They can leak information from the build process. They can leak information from runtime environments and real like live software. But what makes this specific case important is, first of all, that, like, yeah, it kind of sends the secret information, right? And it's not cool. It's not okay at all. But also the fact that this wallet is not open source. And when I first, like, you told me like that it wasn't, like I said, it cannot be, and then we checked, and indeed, both Solana wallets, both the Phantom and the Slope, they're not open source, even though
Yeah.
they're non-custodial. Yeah.
It's crazy, right? That neither, at least like these are the two wallets that seem like the most kind of prevalent, especially Phantom in the Solana ecosystem, and neither of them are open source.
Yeah. And first of all, it's crazy that they're not open source. It's crazy,
Yeah,
and there is absolutely no logical explanation for that.
no,
And the second point is that this fact that they're not open source was not widely discussed during the analysis and like post-mortem of that hack. Uh, Everybody talked about how these libraries got infiltrated with malicious code and how it's not good, but nobody said, wait a minute, if only this was open source, like more eyes could have examined it, people could have noticed that maybe, and like why aren't they? What's the point here?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, at least in my opinion, to have like any non-custodial wallet that isn't open source. It's almost like you're just blindly trusting them. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
for absolutely no like good reason. It's not like there is something
Yeah,
there that,
and like as we saw over the last week, very very like dangerous kind of practice to be involved with.
absolutely. So first of all, people do build their own software, like serious people who, uh, do serious work in crypto or many other, work with open source software. They prefer to build themselves in order to avoid all of these different issues that can be found while you're using pre-built binaries, right? So, for
Yeah,
example, like in Beam, all of the exchanges, or at least many exchanges, I know they build their own binaries. They don't trust even those that like are sent by us, even though they're signed by the company, because why should you, right? You have the source, you can download like this specific version, build it yourself, and be sure that it doesn't contain anything outside of the source that you can see. And
yeah,
this is very important. So obviously most people do not do that, or like regular users, but at least they benefit from the effort to do this, right? And if somebody builds like their own build and then detects discrepancies between the behavior or any other kind of aspect of the software that he built and the one delivered as binaries, they would report it, and they would publish this information. So they will say, wait a minute, there is some problem here because I built it and it behaves differently. It does something. So yeah, it's like very, in my opinion, bad practice to use closed source wallets or any other like closed source crypto related software, especially if there is no good reason for it.
yeah, yeah. And this was like the big thing. There's especially in the like I think Slope was like primarily a mobile wallet. Is that right?
Yes, Slope was mobile, and they also had a browser extension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's no good reason for it to be closed source, especially when it's a non-custodial wallet for like everyday users to be using. And I think this is why when it was happening, when like the hack was taking place, that it was there was a lot of confusion and people were saying it was this and that and all kinds of things, but there was no, like, people couldn't nail down exactly what the issue was.
Yeah. So, like, just to conclude this topic, there are two questions here, which I am like kind of personally interested in. First of all, is there any responsibility for the providers of these wallets considering open source, and there was not a chance like to notice these issues? That's kind of the first question. Like, obviously, every ends agreement says that it's an experimental software and use it at your own risk and all that. But I wonder if there is a difference in this case between open source, which says, listen, this is the source, take a look, build it, do whatever you want, and here this the final product that you have to use. That's the first question I have. And the second question I have, and it was also kind of asked a lot, and discussions were about it, like, what is the Solana, like, what's the Solana's blame here, right? Like, everybody said, wait a minute, even though all of the headlines said Solana was hacked, in actuality, Solana was not hacked. Solana is fine. The wallet was hacked, and this wallet is using is used with Solana blockchain, so it's like not their fault, which is absolutely correct in my opinion. But still, I think it had kind of an additional negative impact on Solana reputation, all the same.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting. I don't know. Is there such a thing as like official Solana wallet or like a reference implementation, or is it just third parties?
I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah. If anybody knows the answer to that, please speak up, and also speak up in general if you want to say anything. But yeah, I think these two questions are interesting to me because uh, I think that this is kind of an opportunity to make things better for the future and avoid these situations.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you would kind of create some kind of, I don't know, best practice, right, around how to use wallets, how to produce wallets, and I think it can be much better than this specific case for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And two very good like questions that like not easily answered. But as Alex mentioned, like if you do have any insights or input that you want to share, not just on this, but at any point throughout the space, throw your hand up and we'll get you in to ask any questions or give some insights.
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's move to our main story tonight, which is about NFTs and specifically kind of physical real life NFTs. And what triggered this story for us in this case is this collection produced by Tiffany with the punks.
Yeah.
Did you order one already?
No, no, I didn't. I don't actually have a CryptoPunk anymore, so I was not allowed one. But even if I was, I don't know if I would have, to be honest.
You mean you don't have this necessity to kind of go out into the real world wearing the punk just kind of to make sure
No, I mean,
everybody
like,
knows?
yeah, I don't know. I couldn't think of anything worse. I don't think it would suit my style.
I thought about it like since this is a necklace, you can twist it and then it can serve you for both types. Know there are those that are looking right and those that are looking left. I learned recently.
True, yes.
So it's actually a bargain. You get one Tiffany necklace and you get both pumps at the same time.
Yeah.
You can represent, yeah. So this kind of this was the trigger, right? And it was a very widely talked about event, and we have decided to do this kind of investigation about different uses for which of them are kind of make more sense or less sense or more interesting and less interesting. And let's start with the kind of broad short but broad kind of overview of my personal opinion about this NFT space. So first of all, you can say that NFTs are like going up or down, but you cannot deny the fact that it's a phenomenon that occurred and is still occurring, cannot be ignored by any means. And I think the main reason that this kind of specific kind of application of NFTs as these avatars on your like social media and in general like galleries of people who purchase them, it exploded because, in my opinion, of two reasons. First of all, NFTs added a lot of color to the world of blockchain. Like before NFTs was very gray and kind of mathematical and financial. So it was all about kind of technology or like financial. And NFTs suddenly opened it to, first of all, a much wider audience of people who are not in finance or technology, and
Yeah.
they are more like related to art or to design or to like aesthetics of any kind. And I think it produced very quickly a lot of interesting, uh, not exactly, I wouldn't consider this like art form like per se, but it did produce a lot of interesting um, applications and designs and concepts that caught the eye, that were like fairly, good looking, and they definitely get attention. And a lot of people wanted to have those. It was also very easy to do, right? You're sitting at home at your computer. You don't need to go to any gallery or store or whatever, and you can participate in the airdrops or in the auctions. So it was widely available, and I think it was very nice. So immediately, this entire space got much more colorful and beautiful and aesthetic. And the second point was that it's much more difficult to make impression when you are on the internet. So in the real life, you can, put on your gold Rolex and then, drive your Rolls Royce or Bentley or Mercedes or Lamborghini or whatever, and wear an Armani suit, and everybody knows you're rich. But when you are on Twitter or when you are on Telegram or wherever, it's much more difficult. Like, what are you going to do? Post your picture like with the Rolls Royce in the background? What's the best way to show everyone I'm not like you? I'm much better off. And this was kind of the point that people achieved, and they started putting avatars on the Twitter accounts even before Twitter had this official integration. And yeah, that was the part in the history where people would argue: is it the same thing as buying an NFT of a punk, or just copy pasting an image?
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, Twitter thankfully made it official that if you actually do purchase an avatar, they will provide the link. And by the way, the link is to OpenSea, which I don't think is a good thing, but at
And
least
and
it's yeah.
Twitter, if I understand correctly, at least initially, I'm not sure if it's still the case. Not only is the link to OpenSea, but Twitter is also using the OpenSea API for their like NFT data, or
Yes, I
okay,
think I think they do.
yeah.
So it's not like they integrate with the blockchains directly. It's all done through OpenSea,
Hmm.
which is much simpler for them, but less decentralized in a way.
Yeah.
Even though decentralization of NFTs is kind of another topic for another time, but there are also a lot of open questions there. Like, can you consider decentralized an NFT whose image is stored on a Google Cloud, somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. And another like I mean firstly I say like I completely agree with how much color NFTs added to the crypto space, and they've made it they at least like how I felt when it first started is they added a lot of fun. Like before it was kind of study this, study that, read the fundamentals. And I mean like often the fundamentals also didn't matter. Uh, and then we had kind of like the meme coins and the dog season and this kind of stuff, and I feel like this kind of gave a real insight into what any of this means, and a lot of it's about the community, and NFTs are kind of an extension of that with pretty pictures and art and PFPs and this kind of stuff. And like you mentioned, it's a perfect like digital kind of equivalent of flexing your wealth or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So, okay, so like outside of these kind of two main purposes of having something nice and also at the same time showing off to your peers, um, let's start with kind of the more conventional in a way, or like the first uses of NFTs as representatives of physical art, right?
Yeah.
So I think among the first who did something like that was Dave, right?
Yeah.
And what he did was, can you explain like what was the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. He came up with the he in 2016, I think it was. He painted a bunch of roughly A4 sized pieces of paper with dots, and almost everyone is exactly the same, but at the same time, it's very different. Almost like a dollar bill. They all look the
Hmm.
same, but then they have kind of their like unique identification number, and the I call them dots. That's not the name. The name for them is like the currency.
The currency, yeah.
Yeah. And they have, like, obviously, if you look at them at a glance, they're all pretty much exactly the same. But then on like a closer inspection, they have like their own unique kind of dot pattern and this kind of stuff, and all have different names and also unique IDs. And he did this in 2016. And then I think about a little over a year ago, actually, they launched as NFTs and sold 10,000, I think it was.
Wow.
Uh, and then after you after you bought the NFT, you had like a 1 year window to decide if you wanted to keep the NFT or burn the NFT and get the physical copy of your like matching artwork. And so you could either decide that, or you could keep the NFT, and they would burn the artwork that kind of coordinates to it. And I think that this 1 year, I know that this 1 year window closed maybe a week or a week and a half ago. And interestingly, at least in my opinion, was that it was almost like bang on 50-50 of the NFTs were burnt and 50% of the NFTs were
Mm,
kept as NFTs. I think that it was slightly like in favor of the physicals.
interesting. It's kind of at the same time an interesting social experiment, right? Like preference for physical and digital copies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did see like an article in, I don't even know which publisher it was, but it was like a very like in favor of traditional art, and they were saying that like there was a resounding preference for this
Mm,
traditional art over NFTs. But then if you looked like closer at the actual numbers, it was like very small difference.
interesting. And each one costs like $2,000, right?
The initially when they sold them, it was $2,000. Yeah, I think.
And they went up in price since then?
I think they went up and down and up and down, as NFTs do, and I think there was even a few that were sold at some auction, like the physicals. A few of the physicals were sold at auction houses. I think one like was sold by Phillips and one was sold at Christie's.
Mm,
And these I can't remember exactly, but I think one of them sold for like 15,000 either dollars or pounds or something like this. And at
wow.
the time, I remember seeing this was a while ago, and I remember seeing someone saying like, "Oh, there's a like," because it was more than the NFT was worth. And I remember someone saying on Twitter like, "Oh, there's a 30 or 40% arbitrage on the NFTs versus the auction." And I thought, I don't know if this guy's like trolling or if he's like a bit
Yeah.
overexcited.
There can be a problem with liquidity on that one.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that this was like one of the most interesting parts about like exchanging it for a physical one, because then you kind of like, yeah, you get a physical painting or whatever it's called, but you kind of have to forfeit that easy liquidity that you find
Hmm.
like in crypto and specific, well, in NFTs.
Amazing. Yeah, that's very, very cool story. And like, it's not probably the only one. Like, there are several projects that link NFTs with like physical works of art, I think.
Yeah,
And so this is a great use. It's like fairly straightforward. Like you have a work of art, the same thing in digital form and physical form, and this is kind of the form transition, if you will, right? So you can transition it from one form to another. Another kind of interesting field is like products that have their own like price and usage, but combined with an NFT.
yeah,
Um, so one of the first weird examples of that that I saw was with Bulgary's watch. So Bulgari created the thinnest watch back in, when was it? I think in April something. But the thing is that since then this record was broken, right? So there is
okay, yeah.
an even thinner watch since then. But this one is pretty thin. I don't remember exactly, but it's like 1.5 or 1.7 millimeters in thickness. So it's a very thin watch.
Wow.
Yeah, you cannot really wear it on your arm because it will just, break very quickly or get,
Yeah,
yeah. It's not for wearing. It's for putting it in a very nice box in the center of your collection. It
and
costs
then
something like $40,000.
yeah,
400, I'm
it's
sorry. 400,000 euro. Oh, I'm sorry.
oh
I
wow.
missed a zero here. Yeah. You can immediately understand that it's all the same to me.
Yeah, its primary use case is telling everyone that you own the world's thinnest watch
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that
yeah.
for that
Exactly.
period of
Yeah.
time.
It's like in this show, The Succession, where he presents this very expensive, like Patek Philippe watch and says, every time you look at it, it tells you exactly how rich you are. That's the point. But this watch was combined with an NFT. So on the back of this watch, there was a QR code that
Okay,
linked to an NFT.
yeah,
And people were really confused about this one because, like, what's the point here? I mean, okay, like after you spend 400,000 euro for this watch, you also get like something which, what? Like, what's the meaning of that? And this was kind of an attempt by Bulgari to create, kind of additional hype, maybe, or like maybe appeal to a younger audience, even though millionaires or whomever, like they say, I bought this like thinnest watch in the world. Yeah, but did you get an NFT with that?
yeah. The world's thinnest NFT.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so probably it was kind of targeted for crypto billionaires or whomever. Um, Obviously, there is a Lamborghini with an NFT.
Yeah, and
Turns
this is
out,
like I saw this. Someone shared it to me the other week, and they said like sign up for this so you can a Lamborghini NFT. Uh, Yeah, but I think the Lambo NFT, you cannot trade the NFT for a physical, nor do you get like a physical Lambo delivered to your house or whatever.
yeah. So you kind of you need to collect them. You need to create a collection of several of them, and then you receive some puzzle piece. So there is some story behind them.
Okay, nice.
Um, and I think like you don't get a Lamborghini with your NFT, obviously, but uh, it's more about kind of this, I think, brand awareness or this kind of gamification of brand awareness, let's say, right?
Yeah, and I mean it make like at first for all of this like stuff about brand awareness and marketing with like these big kind of especially luxury kind of brands, it kind of confused me. But if I well once I thought about it more, it makes perfect sense. Like you can buy a Lamborghini like to scale that is very small and have it on your bookshelf or whatever. You can have like Louis Vuitton book about bags. I mean, it's kind of like uh, it's a collectible essentially. A lot of these NFTs and this kind of stuff, and
Yeah,
collectibles have been massively successful in the real world. So it only makes sense that collectibles are also successful digitally, and to do so, like NFTs makes perfect sense for that to kind of thrive.
Uh, did you collect, by the way, when you were younger? Did you collect
I
something?
I collected many things, but the two that kind of stand out, I collect. This probably shows my age. I collected Dragon Ball Z cards and also Pokemon cards. These were my kind of go-to
Wow,
collections.
wow, amazing. No, since I'm probably a little bit older than you, and I also was when I was a child, I was in the Soviet Union, a country which does no longer exist, even though there are attempts to revive it. But I collected stamps.
Yeah, these are a big one, right?
Yeah, it's like huge. But uh, there is something that I collected that is much more funnier than stamps. I collected, there were these like kind of cartoons inside chewing gums. Like you would open a chewing gum and there was this kind of like piece of comics inside.
I don't, but we had like similar. We had like those kind of those temporary like tattoos that came in chewing gum or candy and this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But I can
so
imagine it. Okay.
in certain types of chewing gum, there was a chewing gum and it was kind of wrapped in a regular kind of not paper like plastic or whatever it was, and inside there was a picture of, let's say there was a car, like there was this kind of one called Turbo or something. I think it was produced in Turkey, and there was a picture of a car, different car each time, like cool stuff, like sports cars and stuff like that. And it was relatively rare, like in the places where I was, looks rare. And yeah, like we collected those and we traded them. And if you had something which was like very rare, you could demand to trade it for like 10 of others or stuff like that. So it was a real marketplace back when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird stuff. So
And
back to NFTs. Like the real nice thing about the Lamborghini one is that in their case, in the end, you get to attend a reveal of a new model. Like if you
can
collect
you
all of them, yeah, they invite you to some secret.
ah okay, yeah. You get like invited to the workshop showroom, I guess it's called, so that you can
Yeah,
like see the unveiling of a new model.
yeah, and this brings
Wow.
us to this very interesting topic of collecting NFTs for an experience. And I understand that you had the rocket.
Yeah, I have a story. I have not. I have an almost experience. Like I have the digital experience, but yeah, there was a project by Tom Sachs, who is a artist I think based in New York, and he worked done some stuff with like Nike and this kind of stuff. Very like fun art, and he had a project that was uh, aptly named Tom Sachs Rocket Factory, and it was quite a like one of the funnest things that I've done in the NFT space. Anyway, he they kind of launched and had an initial like offering or whatever it's called for NFTs, and you could mint three like NFTs for anyone that was whitelisted or whatever. And one was like it was kind of funny right from the beginning. It was NFT and it was nose, fuselage, and tail. And if you like when you minted three of them, maybe you got two noses and a tail, or a fuselage and two tails, or whatever. So it almost kind of encouraged you to do what you mentioned before about like trading with the other people that
Hmm.
also have them. Which, like, a side note, this was one of the things that I always noticed was like a very big like kind of criticism of NFTs was that it was just people trading like with themselves, like within the community. And I mean, okay, but this is like people that collect like antique cars also trade with other people that collect antique cars.
Right.
Anyway, but like a very, very strange criticism. But yeah, you got three pieces of a rocket, and you had to like trade around to make or to get the nose, the fuselage, and the tail. And then they gave you the opportunity to kind of combine pieces, all three NFTs, and in return get an NFT of the like rocket that you made up. And then after this, they gave you like a bunch of opportunities to have your rocket launched. And they made up the physical rocket, like a very small kind of 20 centimeters tall rocket attached, like I don't know what they attached, but some kind of like firework kind of blasting thing. They shot them in the air, retrieved them, put them in like a glass case, and sent them to your house. And this was also like an experience. I didn't have the pleasure of like going to one, but there was like the opportunity to sign up to launch your rocket and also like attend the rocket launch and push the button to launch it and this kind of stuff. But very
That's
like
amazing.
fun. Yeah. So now I'm the proud owner of two physical physical rockets.
That's really creative. Like I really like it.
Yeah,
Um,
it was so much fun. And I don't know who I can't remember the exact name of like the company that they worked for that helped on the like NFT technology kind of side. But they did do a really amazing job at like with the contracts and like how each kind of thing worked together and this kind of stuff. It was really cool.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Like the execution of this campaign is has also huge impact on the overall experience, and the fact that you get something interesting in return, like you get to see or whatever. That's it's amazing.
Yeah, very cool.
So I really like it when these like when NFTs they serve kind of as in like not as a thing in and of itself, just for having the NFT, but also have some additional kind of use cases. Like for example, they give you access to some secret club that only people who own this NFT can access.
Yeah.
Um, and There were some interesting projects that I heard about. Like I don't know, it was an idea, kind of startup stage when I heard about it. I don't know how many of those actually happened, but the idea was that you buy an NFT which sponsors some kind of useful thing. Like for example, you can buy an NFT of a paper, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you instead of just giving a donation, right? Like I just donated, I don't know, $1,000 to some university. You buy an NFT, which is obviously the same as donation, but then you kind of own, not really own. You don't really own any IP or any kind of real thing, but you own a part of sponsor of some specific research. And then you have these bragging rights of saying, oh, I actually contributed to this cancer research, which is like very important because it allowed to develop this drug. And here I have an NFT to show that, right? To
Yeah.
commemorate this event. And here also you have a lot of kind of additional possibilities for gamification. I don't know if this project is really happening, but it's a very interesting idea in general to use NFTs for this purpose.
Yeah, I think it's a really great idea, especially because often like some of these research centers and this kind of stuff, they struggle in a way, or some of them struggle with like funding and fundraising and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, like they can always use help. So another good example, like fairly, like not very rare, but it happened several times, is producing like, for example, very like rare and exotic whiskeys and other like tequila. There was an NFT, right? But you basically buy an NFT that gives you a right to convert it to a bottle of like very rare, like 150 bottle edition of premium quality tequila.
Yeah.
So there was this and a couple of, I think the most impressive one was for me was this Glenfiddich $18,000 super rare whiskey, 46 years old, that
Yeah.
you could buy as an NFT.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you buy it? Because I know that you're a very a big fan of whiskey.
yeah, there was one problem with that. I almost bought the whiskey, but there was this problem with this $18,000 part.
Yeah, yeah. I went for the no NFT version.
I think if I did that, like my wife would like cut me into really small pieces and bury it inside this bottle.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, especially if I bought it as an NFT. Yeah. Even though she still walks with the step-in shoe, you know. I told her it's dead, but she doesn't believe me.
Oh yeah, I've yeah, yeah, I have no comments on the step-in shoes.
It-
But I think like as bad as like the it went after the initial kind of like hype phase. I think it's a kind of cool concept that just so happened to be very like Ponzi-esque in its like economic model and this kind of stuff. But I think that it's cool to see various different like experiments with NFTs, whether it's with art, whether it's incorporating physical, like in real life activities or components and this kind of stuff, or like you said, helping fundraising for research centers or to fund scientific papers, or just getting people to walk. I think it's all
yeah,
very cool and
this is
great to see.
definitely like it not necessarily goes into this physical NFT, but it's definitely an honorable mention
Yeah,
when NFTs are used properly in games and like for gamification purposes or to represent some kind of experiences. I think you told me about this project called Deca, right? Deca Art.
yeah, yeah.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. I just checked it out a few days ago and did some stuff, played around on it. They give you like a free NFT for signing up and getting you to do some tasks, and then you can kind of level up your NFT, and it changes form. I forget I should have written it down. It was a strange name, so I've forgotten it. But the NFT was like I think it's generative art from one of the guys that did one of the like not first but like season one of the art blocks, if you remember. That was quite
Hmm.
big with generative art and this kind of stuff. But it's really, the platform seems cool, and like one of the things that we've mentioned in the past is about this like non-financialized versions of like NFTs and Web3 specifically, and how these can kind of play wider ecosystem and empower like users more.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't play with it yet, but I think I will. It looks enticing, you know.
Yeah, it's fun. And like for me it seemed kind of like what's it called? Instagram,
Hmm.
which I don't really use, but it seemed like kind of similar to Instagram, but more like specifically focused on art and obviously like crypto and Web3 art and this kind of stuff. So I thought it was cool.
Instagram, by the way, a slight off topic, but it's also an interesting story because what happens that because of success of TikTok,
Yeah.
everybody's trying to kind of replicate it, and Instagram is dying as a an amazing medium for photo. And people who
Okay.
used to uh, advertise and run businesses through Instagram and the photos, they're really suffering. Like I have a specific example. My wife really likes this specific flower store that advertises on Instagram because they get like every week or so, a couple of weeks, they get interesting flowers from some place, and then they advertise them on Instagram. And that's how
Yeah.
like you find it and you can order yourself a bouquet or whatever. It's very very nice, and they're doing a great job. Like they're really doing a great job. Like with the flowers are always top notch and the photos are great. And now that Instagram is trying to switch more to the short video format, these people actually get much less attention and less kind of clicks. They're more difficult to find there. So Instagram is actually losing this audience of photographers and people who used to make money from these photos.
Yeah.
And yeah, from one perspective, obviously from the Instagram point of view, it's very profitable because short video format. Which, by the way, I'm not sure if it exists in NFTs like short video format. Maybe it's a startup idea here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but short video is taking over the world.
Yeah, it seems to be getting like far more popular. I mean, even YouTube, I don't spend too much time on YouTube, but the other day I checked out something, I forget what it was. And like immediately I noticed that on at least the web app, they had like a section of short videos and this kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
YouTube
And I was kind of,
Shorts.
yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I'd never seen it, and I obviously don't spend too much time on TikTok. Uh,
Yeah,
but I guess it makes sense. Everyone's attention span is very like swift and short and sharp, and you need a short video, else you lose focus.
yeah. It's paradoxically like my daughter comes to me every once in a while, says, "Listen, I got this interesting recipe for cookies with blah blah. I don't know what." And I'm like, "Where did you get it? Like on TikTok? Like how do you manage to get a recipe from TikTok?" I don't know. She does it. I don't really understand how, but it works.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
like all of this actually, and before we wrap up, because we are nearing the hour, this makes me think of like a question about all of this, not just about social media platforms and not just about NFTs, but the two combined. Like, how do you think that, or what do you think is the most like important aspect that is missing in NFTs at the moment?
Great question. Yeah, I think we should ask it on Twitter and Telegram, and whoever has the best answer, or I don't know what, gets an NFT an airdrop.
Yeah,
Probably.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, but it actually is a great question, and yeah, let's make a thing out of it. Let's talk about it. It's very interesting because first of all, now that we have finally our NFT gallery on Beam,
Yeah.
uh, outside of the kind of obvious issues that are already in the roadmap, like royalties and all the good stuff. Maybe we can do something more interesting. Maybe we can do something even more innovative. So let's do it. We have, we can not just talk about NFTs, we can actually do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like this this my show was very leading, but my main point was like about the privacy that's missing with most of these things, like the NFTs and also the like social media ones that are coming in like in Web3 where you're putting your I mean Twitter where you're putting your NFT like as your profile picture and this is kind of attaching it to your wallet and seeing everything else there. So I think it's going to be very like interesting how that plays out and sets Beam up with having like the initial NFT like how to say like set up so that people can have these non-fungible tokens and also like maintain their privacy and like be able to have this online identity, be able to like prove that they own like proof of ownership through NFTs without kind of doxing the rest of their wallet and assets and how this kind of online identity can kind of thrive. And I think like it will because this is I have had many NFTs and I've always been scared to use them as like a profile picture simply for this fact.
Hmm. I think it was Dima Bonder who told me once about this project. Yeah, that every time you sell your NFT, it changes. So
Okay, yeah.
basically, if it gets stolen, the stolen NFT will be from the one that was, that it was before they stole it.
Yeah.
So kind of in a way, you still have your NFT. They stole something else in a bit, and I think we can do it in our gallery as well by just kind of taking this. It obviously needs to be generative NFT, which is also something that we need to support in the near future. But the idea is that you have a part of the key in your wallet and the part in the contract, and only together you have this complete seed that generates the picture.
Ah, okay. This is cool. And like, there's so many, especially with NFTs, like, so much of this can be done and like experimented with. And I think it's like exciting what's happening already and even more exciting, like what's kind of on the horizon and what can be done, especially like you mentioned with regards to gaming and these kind of things.
Yeah. So I think Meta now wants to integrate in NFTs now.
Yeah, Meta and also Instagram, I think, because now
Yeah.
they're owned by Meta. I'm still
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
used to this Meta name.
Facebook.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Let's call it by its real name, Meta.
yeah.
Yeah, Facebook announced that they're going to support it, and so yeah, it seems that By the way, do you know why? I read this really interesting article about why Facebook is pushing this metaverse concept so aggressively.
Okay.
Uh, so the idea is that you have kind of a battleground. It's like Apple, you have Google, you have Facebook, like all of these major companies.
Mm.
But Apple has devices. Apple has operating system and devices, and Google also has devices and also has an operating system, and they have this search platform. And it's very
Yeah.
difficult for Facebook to compete at this level because they don't have the platform. They're
Okay. Yeah.
they're basically just the service. And one of the examples of that was that I think it was like the iPhone 14 or something that kind of prohibited access to a lot of user information that was previously available to Facebook application, and it affected their targeting efficiency of their ads, and they had a revenue drop as that because they cannot compete without this information. And
That makes sense.
the reason they really want this metaverse thing to happen through them is because suddenly if they succeed in this direction, they will have like a new world which will be theirs, and all of the information that's coming from you in their metaverse will be accessible to them, and then they can like really do all the things they usually do, like sell it to third parties and whatnot.
Yeah, that
if you
makes sense.
watched that movie, yeah.
I mean, it seems very like Facebook-esque to be wanting to create a new world where they're in control and
Absolutely.
influencing everything.
And
Yeah.
like it's like almost literally their world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it I remember like seeing kind of like the metaverse or whatever they're creating, and like I couldn't help but feel it looked very, very boring. This was my initial kind of thought.
I used to think that, but then my wife, again, she's the innovator in the family, she bought an Oculus,
Okay, yeah.
and she was playing with her friend from another country over this Oculus. They were playing, I don't remember what, boxing or something like that. First of all,
Okay,
it looks
wow.
very weird. Somebody's jumping all over the place with, some strange thing over the head.
Yeah.
But in terms of like engagement, it was fun. It was like first of all, it's a physical exercise. Just like step in makes you walk, this thing makes you move, and it's very interesting. So I I can totally see the future where like if you add more kind of different types of experiences to this thing, like maybe it will catch up. Who knows?
Yeah, this is true. And like I must admit that I've never used like one of these Oculuses for anything at all ever actually. But I do very much like the short videos of people having them on and then like jumping into a TV or throwing a racket into the TV or something like
Yeah, it's
that.
supposed to protect you. Okay, so
Yeah,
we have a speaker request, even though we are time, but let's take it.
absolutely. Mohammed, are you there? Maybe a little slow.
It says connecting,
Yeah,
but we will be patient. After all, people listen to us for an hour. It didn't work. Okay, so we will try again next time with Muhammad, or he will just type it on Twitter and we'll reply. But in any case, we will be wrapping up. And thank you very much for being with us this week.
absolutely. Thank you all for joining and see you again next week. We will send out a tweet reminder on Monday tomorrow, and we'll have
Yeah.
a new topic for the next week. And let us know on Twitter or on Telegram anything specifically you would like to have discussed or talked about.
Thank you very much, Gus.
Thank you, Alex, and see you
And
soon.
yeah, have a great evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.